Hey there. This time, instead of picking a highlight from the show to play at the start, I'm just going to have a short segment of some things I wanted to mention during the show, but slipped my mind or I didn't have time to say. First of all, about Age of Empires 4, I wanted to say that it has some of the most amazing controller controls I've ever seen in a real-time strategy game. They are so good, I would rather play it on the console with the controller than with a mouse and keyboard on the PC. It combines the use of either pressing or holding each button to perform a variety of different actions that would require a different hotkey on the keyboard each. There's a button for selecting all the units you can currently see on the screen, a button to select all your military units on the whole map, a button you can hold to select an adaptive smaller group of units depending on how long you hold the button, and a quick radial menu that you can save and reselect groups of units with. And all these are displayed on the screen to remind you until it becomes second nature. On the other hand, I think V Rising should really have controller compatibility. It currently doesn't. Hopefully it will on its 1.0 release. Hey there. This is even more future me coming to interject on past me to mention that I did read an update from V Rising and apparently full controller support will be implemented in 1.0. I just agree with Shakes that the controls with the WASD on the keyboard for movement and mouse for aiming while also trying to control the camera with the mouse too makes combat quite awkward, and I often miss with my important spells coming off cooldown. Now go ahead and enjoy the rest of the show. I might continue to add extra comments at the start of each episode from now on, because it's so often I'll regret what I didn't mention afterwards from being pressured to move on through the topics.
Game begin.
The Mystery Gaming Bros are awesome! The Mystery Gaming Bros know how to party!
Welcome again to another episode of Mystery Gaming Bros, where a bunch of bronies talk about video games. This time, however, being able to hear what my co-hosts Shakespearicles and Cashflow have to say will require a $5 microtransaction each, in addition to this episode costing 110 Australian dollars to start with. Then for each game we talk about beyond the main topic will require the premium track of the season pass for $15. Just kidding, this is not a quadruple A podcast yet, but maybe one day. What have you dudes been up to?
Every additional podcast will cost you $1.99 to listen to.
And now that we've alienated 99% of our audience.
Yep. Just like Capcom did with Dragon's Dogma 2 recently.
My buddy just brought that up to me today, like literally maybe 3-4 hours before this podcast. He was telling me about how one of the things that would happen was if you played a character or a specific character like 10 times in a row or something along those lines, it essentially just screwed you over because now you had to pay for the additional characters. So what's the situation there? I don't have too much of a dog in this fight.
Yeah, you only have one. Turning my volume down a bit. You only have one save in the game, just like with the classic Pokemon games and the Animal Crossing New Horizons Island. You have one save file and that's it. And if you want to change what your character looks like, you have to buy a microtransaction. Or it does turn out that you can earn in-game currency to change the look of your character. But basically, you're stuck with the character that you make forever. You can't delete and start the game over because apparently your saves are stored on their server. So that's one of the big complaints that a lot of people are having about Dragon's Dogma 2 recently.
Like this, I just pulled it up on screen.
Yeah.
Like Jesus.
So they've got all these microtransactions and premium currency and stuff. Although what I have learned from doing some more research about it is that all those things can be obtained in game through just grinding in game, and it's probably not too bad of a grind. These are just like time saving measures. So all that stuff you can still get in game without paying for it. But what's really scummy about it is that, they were advertising that the game was coming out soon, and they said absolutely nothing about the fact that they were going to throw all these microtransactions into the game until it launched. So people didn't even know all this stuff was going to be there until launch day when the game went out. And all of a sudden people saw that there's all this DLC purchasable, and there's like an in-game shop. Your character is stored on their server, so there's no offline play. And it's a single player game. As far as I know, there isn't actually any interaction with other players at all in the game. So this is all completely pointless. There's no reason for for them to have you play the game on their server rather than just off your own hard drive. So yeah, those are some of the issues that a lot of people are complaining about.
And they couldn't charge you more monies.
Yeah, and I mean, the game already costs, like a Zelda Tears of the Kingdom level price that people were complaining about not that long ago.
How much is the game? I don't actually know.
Well, it's 110 Australian dollars, so that's probably like $90 in US. I don't know. I guess you'd find out what the price is on your.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So that's screenshots from my Australian Steam showing Australian dollars. But yeah, $110 here in Australia.
Ooh, baby.
And that's probably $80 to $90 in the US.
It's
70.
70. Yeah. Yeah, that's the price that people were complaining that Tears of the Kingdom was compared to $60 of the Breath of the Wild and stuff like that. So like I think games are due to increase in price, but to both increase in price and have microtransactions tacked onto them is just, it's just getting really frustrating for a lot of gamers lately. And it's just getting worse. These single player games.
We've talked about this before extensively.
The crazy thing is you have to understand that the $50 price point for video games has existed since the early 90s.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I was young and working my first part-time job, saving up to get like getting Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and that was a $50 game. And that hasn't changed in like 3 decades. And so now for it to go from 50 to 60 to 70, like the price point for a AAA video game is actually behind on the inflation curve.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It actually should be closer to $90. And the way that they bridge that gap, because if you start charging $90 for a game, that's going to be something that most people are going to say no. And you need to still get sales. Yeah, the cost of technology has come down. A lot of the coding costs have come down with AI assistants and whatnot. But like they still need to pay their workers, and these are huge publishers. And so the way they do that is by having these sort of microtransactions. Now, the way that these work, the only time I have problem with microtransactions, honestly, personally, is if it's a pay to win in a competitive environment. If it's a single player game and there's like additional content that you could buy a la carte, like just like, hey, if you like this game and you want to play more of it, you can buy these expansions to it. It's kind of shitty, but it makes it so more people can buy the base game at like $40. And in terms of these sort of like microtransactions, when it comes to stuff that you can get in game, I feel that as long as you can earn the stuff all in game, which you can in this case for Dragon's Dogma, then honestly, all you're doing is saving time. Because for me, like I could spend an hour grinding to get this particular currency, but I could go to work and get paid for that hour and spend a hell of a lot less by just buying the stuff directly with my money because my time is worth more. Now, if you're a kid and your time isn't worth anything because you can't be employed, you have the time to spend to grind for the items. But if you're an adult and you have a limited amount of time to play the game and you don't want to waste it grinding, the microtransaction represents a convenience. And as long as you can still get that stuff in game and it's not a pay to win and it's not a competitive environment, then all that does is just keep the base price of the game lower.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a good way to look at it.
The thing is, though, I think they should just increase the price of games. I suppose that might not look very good and might turn some people off, but it's a lot better for us in general than all these microtransactions and season passes and all this.
Why?
Well, at the same time,
No,
it's a
hold on, hold on,
balance.
hold on. Hold on.
It's a delicate balance. Like you
Ex-
can't just increase the price of games because then people are going to say I can't justify. It was like Shakes was saying, you can't justify $90, but I can justify 70. And by doing that, you're essentially going to have less sales overall. Sure, you may say it can take away those microtransactions because you're being covered, but how much of it are you going to lose because you're increasing the price? How many sales and how much cash, like at the end of the day, how much cash flow is going to be reduced because less people are not only buying, but they make money off those microtransactions. And
Cash
if you
flow.
don't have to buy them, yeah, I know. But what's it called? If you don't have to buy them, like Shakes was saying, if it's non-competitive environment where it just kind of, like say it's all what's the term? It's all fashion based. It's all like, oh, I want to look better. Or yeah, I don't have time to play video games nowadays. So it's like, yeah, sometimes I'd rather pay. I'd rather pay to have that little extra boost so I can, keep moving forward and not spend all my time grinding because that to have like an hour or two to play a day and to have to spend the majority of it grinding, I just doesn't work out.
and
I
those
just
of
don't want to
us
do that.
and those of us that have the money to spend to throw it at the game, that pays the game developers the extra money that they need to bridge that gap, and it lets other people who otherwise would not be able to afford the game buy the game at a lower price point. So just flat out raising the price of the video game overall, it just gatekeeps poor people.
Yeah, I suppose so.
What's it called? One other thing about it is,
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to
you're
play.
not wrong in that we've been spoiled. I think, yeah, we've been spoiled by the $50 video game since that's been the industry standard for so long. But I've talked about this with other friends as well, and yeah, everyone's already kind of expecting it to increase in price, or at least anecdotally, that's what I've been feeling. Simply because of that reason, it's like, yeah, we've been spoiled. It takes a lot to create a game, and especially a AAA game.
Yeah, and I'll tell
Just
you
do the
what,
math.
this is strictly a AAA, and I'm not even gonna use the term quadruple A because that's dumb. Okay, but this is
Yeah,
strictly a AAA game discussion. This is a AAA game problem because what this is going to do is this is going to just bolster the independent game scene, which is already blossoming.
yeah.
And
That's a good thing.
the more that the AAA game industry keeps having to raise their prices, even if they're not doing it maliciously, the fact that they have to just to keep maintaining this level of quality that the consumer base is coming to expect, what that does is it creates a competitive niche for independent game developers to make games that are cheaper but just as fun. Because
Mm.
I think people now are getting to the point now where they're starting to realize it's not about graphics anymore. We don't care how many pixels there are. We're already playing in 4K. It's
Oh
what
yeah,
we're focused on now is good gameplay, and so there's tons of independent games that are just amazing because of that, and they
yeah.
don't need to have
You'll
amazing graphics
especially
or the
see
amazing
that.
price point.
You'll especially see that when I show you Tiny Rogues soon.
I
And
was
what
gonna say,
$5 can get you. um,
it's also at the end of the day, it's similar to writing. Story trumps wow, what was it? Story trumps graphics. And what that means is that, if you have the good fundamentals of a story, if you have the good writing down, people are always going to come back to it. It's better than doing, oh, I believe it was story trumps trends. So you can see that in like revivals, like I think the Powerpuff Girls revivals, how they just had random nonsense that was just, of the day, basically TikTok trends, things along those lines, and it died off immediately.
yeah,
Whereas the old classic one has better writing, has better visuals, and people every once in a while you bring that up and they're like, "Oh my God, I remember that. That was such a great, show." And people every once in a while will go back and watch it. So it's
yeah,
it's one of those situations where if you have a good game that's fun, because at the end of the day, that's what these games are for. They're escapism. They're escapism from your regular life to go enjoy uh, a 2-hour gaming session where you're killing fucking monsters. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and
Like,
and like in addition to like a good story, trumping graphics, all right, but like there's plenty of games that have poor graphics and virtually no story, but they have fantastic gameplay. And I think what
yeah,
it ultimately boils down to is you can tell, the consumer can tell which video games were made with love and which ones were made to become a cash maker
yeah.
because it shows.
Yeah.
It shows in the
So
quality.
I want to
It doesn't have
play
to do with
Dragon's
quality of
Dogma 2, but it's unaffordable for me at the moment. I'm still having to stick to pretty cheap games lately because I'm barely surviving my rent price at the moment. So I will probably not be able to play Dragon's Dogma 2 until I can get it by some other means, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, rent prices. Don't even tell me about rent prices, man.
Oh yeah.
It's starting to hurt,
Oh yeah.
especially where I'm moving to. It's like, oh, my bones,
Yeah.
my wallet bones.
Anyway, if that's all we want to say about that, I thought maybe you could give us a Helldivers 2 update, Shakes, for those that are interested in that.
All
I
right.
haven't
Well,
even started. Let's see it.
have you not played it yet, Cash?
I played it. I still have footage actually.
Yeah,
of
he
me
showed us
playing.
footage of him playing it last episode.
All right. Cool. All right. So, as of this posting, Helldivers 2 continues to be more popular than God. It's a fantastic success story. They've sold 8 million copies as of this date. It's got over 250,000 Steam reviews of very positive or better. The the Galaxy strategy of it has had several updates, keeping the fan base engaged. So they keep, changing up. There's new major orders. Everybody gets new minor orders every day. You're motivated to come back and play as often as you can, but you're not punished for missing out on anything. You still, will get the major rewards if you, play during those time periods.
Yeah, because I think you were
They have-
complaining earlier about having to go to work and, having to leave your leave the fictional world behind that you're trying to defend
Well-
from aliens.
Yes, well, that's less of a obligation to the game and more of a addict. Now, I'm not going to say that the game is
Leave your
addictive, but
addiction.
I'm not saying that the game is addictive. It's really not. You can quit at any time, but I can't. I can't. I have got 110 hours logged in this game, and I still love the ever-loving crap out of it. The core gameplay loop is engaging. I've never had two missions go the same way. The maps are procedurally generated. The enemies are distributed randomly, but sensibly. Like they don't just appear in dumb places. Like they will be around certain objectives, so you will know where to expect them, but they won't always be there, or they will be in places that you wouldn't necessarily expect, but they make sense. And they've been doing a ton of work on the back end to adjust patrols, for example. Because what would happen is there's a lot that goes into this, but there was a lot of logic that went into where patrols would spawn relative to the players, depending on how close the groups of players were to each other, or if they were all spread out. And it was causing like patrols to spawn like on top of people, where like all of a sudden they would just like blink into existence around you, and then you'd be under attack. And so they've changed it to make it so the patrols would spawn in more sensible locations. And that's the most recent update, but they're constantly listening to the feedback. They're very in tune with the community, which is always great to see. They listen to feedback, and they want to make it the best game possible for as many people as possible. But they're not going to make a game for everyone. They've said that a game for everyone is a game for no one. And then there's some aspects about it where like, hey, you should add this, and they'd be like, no, that's not the game we're trying to make here. Oh, I can tell you've got your graphics turned down with this footage. Those bugs definitely usually have more detail, so this is not indicative of how it normally looks. It's got really rich detail, but it also has the capacity to have that turned down, so it has a flexibility to play on multiple levels.
You know what I
of
think it
machines.
is? Let me go ahead and check out my streaming set.
So what you're saying, Shakes, is that I'm not alone in holding down reality while you guys are saving the fictional universe.
Right.
I made that joke in the Discord.
I understand that that Helldivers is not a game for everyone. Like you have to like be doing a run and gun sort of arena shooter, swarm fighting type of game to begin with, which I wasn't a huge fan of it, and also like I wasn't really a big like military game fan at all. Like I actually just did a blog post about this recently. But the thing that really struck a chord with me for Helldivers is the fact that it's capital F fun, and it's chaos in a can. It's you could have everything under control, and then something could happen. All of a sudden, the entire mission just goes crazy, and and I mean that, you know, in both the good way and the bad way. Like, you can have things legitimately happen that would throw off your mission, or there could be an in-game bug that still needs to be worked on. But it's kind of like the early days of Skyrim, where it's the Wild West, and you could have like a horse walking up the side of a mountain. And the same thing with this game. You can have some very funny bugs that sometimes they're game-breaking, but there's no, like, aside from maybe losing out on the progress of like a 40-minute mission, which isn't the end of the world. You know, it's still pretty funny just to, you know, shoot a bug and then watch it just like go off into orbit because something happened with the game, and now it's
Yeah.
leaving the game.
It looks like there's a lot of bugs in the game, like heaps
Yes.
of them.
And this is actually a very early on mission. I think we were only playing on like medium or hard.
Well, if you
Probably
look
not
in the
even
top right
medium or
corner there,
hard.
you can see the level 4 there, so I know you're on challenging.
Oh, okay. So
you got trivial, easy, challenging, and then hard. So yes, this is hard difficulty. But you've got a stalker that's showing up, which can,
Just gotta
Got a
turn
what?
those off.
yeah.
Oh, the
so like,
sucker over there.
yeah, so like those guys they suck because they can turn invisible, and
Oh, hell yeah.
they're fast and they're tough. They are the fastest bug in the game. They can outpace you even when you're in a dead sprint. And
I remember
they've
with
actually
this. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
oh and also to go with the stalkers, they've introduced the shriekers, which I don't know if you've encountered those yet.
No, I haven't actually. I haven't played the game in like 2-3 weeks, if I'm being honest. I
Okay,
haven't
so
touched it
the
in a while.
shriekers are the new flying bugs, and those are a pain. You can combat them by diving onto the ground. As long as you're laying prone, it's very hard for them to hit you. They almost can't, but they sometimes can, depending on where you are. Like if you're on a hillside, you can get it.
Right.
But they have a large nest that looks like a spore spewer, and you have to destroy that either with a hell bomb or with like a large orbital. The game's fantastic. It's a ton of fun, and when you're not getting your absolute butt kicked in by these things, you can have a pretty significant power fantasy calling in these airstrikes and having these massive explosions. And
Hey,
the
so,
game just has a fantastic sense of comedy.
What is its microtransaction status?
Okay, so this game, first of all, Helldivers starts at a $40 price point, and there are microtransactions only for in-game currency that you can earn by playing the game anyway. So again, it is just a convenience to save time, but there's nothing that you can buy with cash that you can't earn by just playing the game. And I will say, for a fact, that you can play this game, you can earn the currency quite fast. So there's really no point in spending the money on the game unless you just want to support the developers. Now, for the season passes, only cost in-game currency. So again, it's like it's called super credits, but you can earn them just by playing on the missions.
Okay, cool.
And like there's one particular one that I was able to unlock by buying the Super Citizen supporter pack, and I didn't need to, but I love this game and I got it to support the developers because I wanted to vote with my money and say, hey, I would rather give a full $60 to this game rather than spending it on something like Dragon's Dogma. Because this right here, this is how you do it right, and it's a small development team, and they're very successful, and it's just fun.
Yeah, cool.
I have to agree. I mean, this is one of the only games I've played, and this is one of the games I haven't played too many games in a while that made me just, get so immersed in it. I think the last time I played a game like this was Hell Let Loose, where basically it turned into a World War II RP session between everybody in your squad.
Yeah.
It is so much fun. It's similar to this game. It's similar to this
Yeah.
game. It's just heaps and barrels of fun. You get lost in this. You get lost. Yeah, to steal a phrase, you get lost in the sauce of having a blast with random strangers at that. That's the crazy part.
Yes, that's another one of the strengths of this game. I have never had a better experience in other games playing with random people. Like there's been so many times where I just hop on and then join a quick match, and there have been some people who say like, oh, there's people out there who are doing friendly fire, or there's people out there who are griefing and kicking. Like, I've never experienced that. I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm sure it is, but like
Right.
I've never had that happen to me.
You know
And I've
what's
played
even
for
worse than
110
that?
years.
Even worse than that is the hugging that goes on. That's
Yeah,
so gay.
It's a little lewd. It's a little lewd, if I'm being honest. There's lots of hugging.
Is this you not figuring out how to turn the radar dish?
Yeah, that was me not realizing that the radar dish was fucked. I was like, what the heck is happening?
All right, so listen, this is a point of advice. This is to anyone listening. Okay, as soon as you see stalkers, you need to destroy their nest as a priority.
All right, those things are annoying.
All
Oh, and I
right.
got fucking biled on there. That
Yeah.
thing fucking came on me.
So
All right. Well,
yes, I mean, yeah, Helldivers is a great game. Get it. If this even looks even
100%
remotely fun to you, definitely get it. It's the best game of its genre I've ever experienced.
And it only gets harder from here. That's the better part. To me, I think that's fun because it's more of a challenge. This is only level 4. This is only
Yeah.
challenging tier 4. Like, there's how many is there? 6? Is that
There's
12?
9.
My
There's
bad. I
9.
meant
It goes up to
6
9.
more.
But that's the thing too. Like when you play on level 1, it's literally called trivial, but it is very approachable. It's a great way to like learn a new weapon. You know, it's almost like the shooting range because there won't be any like spawning holes for bugs. Like they'll just be the patrols that are on the map, and that's it.
I remember we
and-
would sorry to interject here real quick, but I remember what we would do is we'd run up to those holes and toss a nade in them.
Yep.
We did not understand at first what would happen, and yeah, a few of us just stood right by the hole. We got blown to bits, like literally fucking launched us into the ocean kind of shit.
Yeah.
It was funny as hell.
Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. That was an unintended effect. But you know, that again, that's one of those game bugs where it's the early programming needs to get fixed. I've had that happen where I've gotten launched because of physics that weren't supposed to happen, and those are things that they've been patching. But in the meantime, it's entertaining because this game is just really good slapstick. You know, it's grade A tomfoolery shenanigans.
cool.
No, and I agree 100% because some of those shenanigans, like you said earlier, it's fun. At the end of the day, it may be like a glitch, but as long as the glitch isn't game breaking, it just turns into fun randomness. You know what I mean? It's like fucking Pinkie Pie. You never know what the hell's gonna happen next.
There's been a lot of people who have been complaining about the game because it had a poor launch because the problem was that it was so successful that the servers
Oh,
were
yeah.
swamped. And so people were complaining, oh, I can't even get into the game. You know, what a lousy game that you can't even get into. This is such a bad game, you know. And I thought that was a very hollow complaint because that's like me saying, oh, I went to go see Avengers on opening night, but the tickets were all sold out, so I didn't even get to see it. Therefore, Avengers is a bad movie.
Bad movie.
Yeah,
You know,
I definitely
and-
didn't expect their
What's the
success.
longest that you waited for the game, or to get into the servers?
Well, I mean, there have been times when I didn't get a chance to play it all that night because I mean I didn't want to stick around for however long it was going to take for them to fix it because some of these problems took days to recover. You know, like
Yeah.
again, they got 400,000 people like immediately, and they were only prepared for like an eighth of that. They were not expecting the kind of success that they had, and so all those critics that were complaining about the server issues being a problem for them is just punishing them for the success.
I remember the longest for me, it was about 2-3 hours. It was on a weekend, so I was like, all right, I have the time, I want to play, you know, it's a new game. And yeah, it took quite some time before I was able to finally get in, and quite a few launches, like relaunches.
Yeah.
But ultimately
But-
speaking, it was still worth it.
Yeah, and I will reiterate that the development team for this game has been extremely vocal, communicating with the community to let them know, hey, you know, like we're having these problems. We know that you guys want to get in, but we're working on it as hard as we can right now. And they've always kept that line of communication open.
Yeah,
So that way, players were never like thinking like, oh, we've been abandoned. We bought a crap game. It's like no. All right, you just gotta be patient. We didn't expect this many people, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah,
you know,
I
is that
think,
if you're
I think what you need to remember is that you shouldn't be abandoning these companies just because they have a better than expected launch. Because I mean, this happened with Last Epoch too, and you shouldn't be an asshole by like boycotting them for doing so well, because you should be rewarding them for making such a good game rather than punishing them for success.
Yeah. Now, most of the critical reviews that I've read like have that understanding where they said like, okay, yes, we understand that the servers are like swamped right now because it's more popular than they were expecting. So most of them are pretty understanding. But like for example, there was this one article I read like by the Jimquisition, where like that was the core of their complaint, was that they couldn't even get into the game. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, like it was more successful than they were anticipating, and if your entire judgment of it is based on that, then you're an a-hole.
Yeah, I don't like seeing people, be a-holes like that. Like I was seeing it a lot in the last Epoch community as well. It's like,
So,
geez, guys,
been
just
last?
calm down.
but anyways, they have fixed so many bugs. The game performs beautifully for me. They're still making minor bug fixes. They fixed like the matchmaking, the cross-platform correcting. So they've made it so that you can make friends, because it's available on PC and PlayStation, and so you can play cross-platform, which is great.
Not Xbox.
There's a lot of people who want to come to Xbox, but because this is a Sony distributed game, that's going to be a tough sell. They haven't out and out said it's never going to happen, but it's unlikely to happen very soon. That's too bad, because like if it managed to get onto Xbox, that would be a industry first.
Yeah, man, I'm starting to wish I got a PlayStation, because there's a lot of other games, like a lot of Final Fantasies, that I have to wait a long time to play.
I would tell you to save up, get a PC. That's what I would tell you, but y'all do you.
I've never touched the Final Fantasy series. I've heard it's good. I've just never had the drive, I guess you could say, to go get it. And I had a PS3.
Yeah, no, I played Final Fantasy VII back in like 1995.
Yeah,
I
same.
didn't get into it at all.
It's one of my earliest
the vid-
games.
I had that's not Final Fantasy.
No?
Yes,
I thought
it
that was
is.
Final Fantasy.
That's the Final
Is it?
Fantasy Victory fanfare.
Oh,
There's like
right.
variations on it in each game.
oh, all right.
That's
Number
like the
7.
original one.
I think I heard that from somewhere else as like a meme, I guess.
It
Yeah,
probably
oh,
was.
yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I think we all know a certain game that had it as a meme.
I'm sure
What was it
Final
called?
Fantasy has got a lot of memes around the internet.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to a game that I've really been enjoying lately. I've been no-lifing at the moment on it, and that's V Rising. Because, yeah, I've been watching the game for a long time in beta, and it's still in beta, but they recently brought out a large portion of the game.
Now I'm very
Called
excited
Dreamer.
about this, because I played it at launch.
Mhm.
I enjoyed it enough, but I just felt like the combat was a little sluggish. So, and if you've been playing it recently, I know they've been doing a lot of work on it. So I'm very excited to see what they've added to it.
Yeah, so with
we-
the combat, it is kind of sluggish, but I think it's in a good way. Like it's like you've got your sword attacks, like and as you get, like, you start off with one sword attack where you just swing, or whichever weapon you choose. There's a lot of weapons to choose from in the game, and some don't unlock until certain tiers, like the iron tier or the tier above that, whatever that is. Like I just recently unlocked the ability to use a scythe, which is a whole different weapon from the other ones that has different properties.
Yeah,
And
different
and
attack
apparently
combos.
there's
I mean,
pistols, but I haven't found that yet.
well, at its heart, it's a survival crafter. For those
Yeah.
of you who haven't played it.
Yeah, so
Now, this is interesting. This is an interesting prospect right here. I'm looking on their website. I don't know if you can see my screen right now, but I'm looking on their website. They actually have a creator program. I don't think I've seen this with other games before. I've seen them reach out to individuals on YouTube, say, "Hey, play this game, promote it," but I've never actually seen one take the steps to preemptively give you the opportunity to sign up. I think this is an interesting prospect. I love this.
that's
Just
a bit different.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're saving them work. Instead of them coming to find you, you apply, then they check you out.
Yeah, so
Right, no, and I
anyway,
agree.
with the combat, I find its slow pace a bit refreshing compared to, all these ARPGs that are trying to be just crap going on all over the screen all at once. The combat is a bit more methodical in that, you're mostly slashing your sword, but then you've got cooldowns on your spells and abilities. Like my favorite spell at the moment is the one that shoots a projectile, and when it hits the enemy, it spawns a skeleton next to them that will help you fight them. Like I always tend to go for summoner like builds in most games like this. And yeah, so you only have, you got a large cooldown on some of your bigger spells. So yeah, you're mostly using your weapon, and your special attacks and the weapons have got a cooldown, and you've got a cooldown on your spells. and that kind of gives the combat a slower pace, but a more understandable pace, because your opponent, the bosses have got the same sort of thing where they have slashes and then cooldowns on their abilities, and you've got a time when you're going to dodge and stuff like that.
Now, as a vampire fan myself, I have to ask you, now, have you seen the show Preacher on Netflix?
No.
All right. So in that show, there's a vampire who's Irish. He's like 400 years old. Not important. What is important, though, is that whenever he goes out, he has like one of those big Vietnamese cone hats to cover himself. And he also carries an umbrella around. And that's how he goes out in the daytime. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why doesn't the vampire in this game have an umbrella for the daytime? I just feel like that would be a useful thing to have.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. There is a really cool mechanic when it comes to night and day, where obviously at night you can go out and you can do whatever you want, but during the day you've got to worry about the sunlight. But what's pretty cool is that it's got this really cool shade system where you can literally just use the shade from a tree to protect yourself from daylight. So when you're going out during the day, you've kind of got to like dash and run in between sources of shade, and quite a lot of shade is like, you can see in here, each of the shade from those trees, you just got to run into that shade within like, I think 10 seconds before the sun starts hurting you. And so you're still able to play the game pretty well during the day. It's just it has the added difficult element of needing to keep on seeking shelter under shade. But I find that it's a really fun mechanic. So like if you're fighting a boss and it turns to day during the boss fight, it gets a little harder, but not impossible, as long as you just seek shelter. It's kind of like an extra AoE to avoid the AoE of sunlight.
The blood bonus is still the same?
Okay, so what happens is you come across enemies that have got different percentages, and I think it's kind of randomly generated. So you can come across a wolf that's got like 5% blood quality. And yeah, what that percentage does is there's different types of blood. So you've got creature blood, and yeah, if you get an enemy with 5% creature blood, it will give you certain bonuses, depending on how much percent it is. But if you get like an enemy, like there's different types. So there's like warrior, and there's brute and scholar, and they all have different effects depending on how high their percentage quality blood is. And it's sort of randomly generated, so you've actually got to go and hunt around for these enemies that aren't actually any stronger. It's just their blood is a higher quality, and you want to try to feed on them, and then they will give you a limited you use blood to heal yourself. So you spend blood to heal yourself, and if you get low on your blood, you've got to go and eat someone else to replenish it, and hopefully you can find another one with a similar or higher percentage from what you're using. But later on in the game, what you can do is you can start imprisoning villagers or other, NPCs, and locking them in cages, and then you can just continually tap them for their quality of blood permanently. So in my base at the moment, I'm trying to, find enemies with as high quality blood as possible. And then the really hard part, is not hurting them enough to kill them, but to get their life low, and then you dominate them, use a dominate spell on them. So it's kind of like capturing a Pokemon. And then you've got to try to get them back to your base. And while you're dominating them, you can only use your main weapon. You can't use any of your other spells. So then there's the challenge of getting back to your castle with that dominated NPC. And then being able to either lock him in a cage so you can take advantage of his blood whenever you want, or you can turn him into a vampire, which has like a timer on it, like it's 30 minutes to turn someone into a vampire. And depending on the quality of their blood, it determines how good of a vampire they turn into. And then you can use those vampires to go out on hunts. So you you gear the vampires up with the same kind of armor and weapons you're gearing yourself up with. So in addition to getting the materials and stuff to equip yourself, you're also getting it to equip. At the moment, I'm up to having six vampire minions, and then what you do is you send them to places on the map to hunt. And this is where the game gets a bit grindy, because these hunt times are things like 8, 16, 24 hours you can choose, or 2 hours if you want. But that time passes when you're offline and, going to work in real life or whatever. And the game has an emphasis on going into actual servers. You can go into PvE servers where you're just collaborating with other vampires, or you can go into PvP servers where you got to worry about your castle getting raided by other vampires, which sounds a bit brutal. I haven't tried that yet, and it sounds like it might be a bit too frustrating to have to deal with that kind of loss of progress. I'm not sure how brutal PvP is, but yeah, that's an option.
Well, it's for a certain kind of player.
Yeah.
It's not for
Right,
everybody.
right.
So I'm just playing PvE, but also what I can do in PvE is if someone's abandoned the game and they leave their castle, because you can like build your castle on all these plots all over the map. And once you claim a plot, that plot becomes yours. And yeah, you can go to other people's castles. And if they've abandoned their castle, because you have to supply your castle with blood, and what happens is the time that your castle will persist offline will have a certain timer. So at the moment, I can be off the game for I think 5 days before my castle will start to decay, which is quite a generous amount of time, but it can actually get higher once you get to a higher tier of castle, I believe. And yeah, as long as you play come in and put more blood in your castle, which just involves killing some people, not very many, to just have your castle persist.
Okay, so just a quick question.
Yeah.
As a prospective consumer, I mean, I already own the game. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Now, if you're playing in single player, does that matter? Because like that's not saved in a persistent world. It's just saved in it's kind of a static environment. Or is this the sort of thing where like in order for this game in order for your castle not break down, you have to come back like at this point every 5 days just to refresh it?
I don't actually know much about that. I wanted to go on a PvE server so I could come across other vampires and stuff. I actually had a vampire help me with a fight once, but most of the fights I did on my own. But it's a pretty low population Australian server.
I understand.
Yeah.
No, I'm just asking because like I like games that like can reward you with like progress but offline time. So like you feel like while you're sitting at work, like, oh, that's okay, my guy is doing some hunting, and when I get back when I get back home tonight, I'll have some stuff ready for me.
Yeah, you'll have your vampires come back with a bunch of loot in their inventories that you can retrieve, when you get back.
But what I don't like is games that like you
forced.
require you to come back, otherwise things start to deteriorate.
Yeah, I think it's pretty generous so far, like 5 days with this tier 3 castle that I've got. It starts off with like, I think you have a max of 2 days when you first start your castle. But yeah, it doesn't take very long to get to a tier 3 castle, and I guess,
right, but I mean, so for me, it just kind of harkens back to like a mobile game where it's like you have to come back and get your daily to get your combo because you have to do it 30 days in a row. But if you miss a day, you gotta start over again.
It's not quite like that. It's just coming in to make sure your castle can persist, which doesn't take much time. Like I saw some people complain about that in reviews before I was considering buying it. They were like, "Oh, I lost my castle and all my progress and stuff." But from what I've seen so far, as long as you get log in every 5 days and just go and do one raid on a town, you'll be able to get enough blood to keep your castle persisting. I guess it just really depends. Like there was a game I played called Conan Exiles, and that has a similar sort of thing. And yeah, it did piss me off when twice now I've lost all my progress on Conan Exiles because I just get distracted. But that was usually for a whole month. So I'm yet to see if that's going to happen with this game. Like maybe I'll be done with the game when I decide to stop playing it for an extended amount of time. but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, progression in the game is locked behind the boss fights. So when you beat a boss, you unlock some sort of new spell, such as the ability to turn into a wolf vampire. Like, the wolf allows you to start moving faster as if you're on a mount. There are mounts as well, which I've only just unlocked the ability to get, and I haven't actually got one yet. But yeah, you got to beat a boss to be able to dominate horses. And basically, yeah, like each new recipe and stuff like that is, behind a boss that you've got to defeat, and they're pretty challenging. Like I think each boss usually takes me at least five attempts when I've got to like run back to my corpse and get my stuff back and try again. And there's a lot of factors that you can do to try to increase your chances. Like you can make potions that will give you temporary buffs, and they're like 30-minute temporary buffs, so they're not too annoying to have to keep drinking all the time. And there's there's the blood quality, like trying to find an enemy with a good blood quality before you go into a fight with a boss. And then there's also the blood moon that happens occasionally. So I think every couple of nights there's a blood moon, which will give you like an extra 15% to all your damage and stuff. So when a blood moon starts, you're like, all right, now's the time when I got to go and make an attempt on a boss while I've got this, bonus. So there's all these factors that make it pretty fun to get through these games. And you have to like collect materials to upgrade, your armor for you and your vampire minions and stuff. And to do that, you got to go on regular raids into villages where you slaughter, low level easy villagers and the, bit harder guards that are around the place. And it's pretty easy to get overwhelmed if you aggro too many of the guards and stuff. But yeah, it's been really fun.
Well, good.
Did you have anything to say about your experience earlier in the, during the earlier access?
I didn't get terribly far in it. I mean, I made like a basic wooden castle. The build menu, I don't know if they've improved it, but the build menu was very unintuitive in my opinion. Matter of fact, like it was very hard for me to find like how to build a door. There wasn't really much of an explanation to that. And I will say that the playability of a game, because we got to remember Steam has a 2-hour refund. I didn't refund it, but a lot of people would if they get to a point where they've played it and they decide, oh, I don't like this game. And because of that, video games need to understand that they will live and die by their tutorial. And so once you get out of the initial area where like you learn how to move around, how to consume blood, and how to do combat in the tutorial area, there wasn't really a ton of tutorial on how to craft a castle. They'll get a text prompt saying, hey, build a wall, hey, build a blood heart, and it tells you to do these things, but it wasn't very good at the time telling me how to do it. So I found that to be frustrating when I was going through that.
Yeah,
As a
I
matter,
don't really, I don't really remember there being much of a tutorial, but I also don't remember it being unintuitive and me not being able to figure it out myself easily.
Right. I mean, like I was able to build a castle, but like I had to build all walls, and I had to keep like tearing down a wall to get out of my castle, and then build it again to get back into it. Because like I just couldn't find the tab to build a wooden door.
That only kind of happened to
Yeah,
me
that is
because I didn't have enough materials to make a wooden door yet. So yeah, I had to pull.
Right. Well,
but that was like
not the
really
point.
early
Like,
on.
I couldn't find it in the menu despite like me digging through it, and I'm a pretty seasoned gamer, so I know
Yeah.
how to like try to figure these things out.
Yeah, you start
And the
off with a
fact that
really primitive thing where you can't even have a roof until you reach like castle level 2. That's when you
yeah.
can start building proper walls and actually have a roof over your head. Before then,
Yeah, that
you've
was
got
another
to
thing that baffled me because like
yeah
I had to make the fog generating
yeah.
item to not get killed by the
Later on,
sun.
you'll only need that fog generator for like courtyards and outdoor areas of your castle that you decide to make, because there's this pretty cool
No, I understand,
garden.
but like
Yeah.
just the fact that like I didn't have a roof at the beginning there, like I didn't understand like, okay, where's the roof tab, and I just kind of I struggled
Yeah.
I struggled a lot with the castle building mechanic. I did not find the combat enjoyable. I mean, I understand that it's not, it's designed in a certain way. It didn't feel very easy for me. Like it definitely was not the same as something like, say, Hades, for example,
Yeah.
which was a lot more frenetic and,
Yeah,
and
I
faster
do
paced.
admit that I did find the combat a bit awkward with how it's WASD, which I'm not used to in action RPG games. Because yeah, I'd have to, because like yeah, it is awkward to have to try to rotate the camera and walk around with the WASD, and then you press a spell button and it comes up with like a with an aimer, and what will often happen is I will miss, with my projectiles, and because yeah, there is a bit of awkwardness
Yeah.
there.
Now, for something like that, I really felt like there should be more attached to the mouse, where you could like select from like on your keybinds. First of all, you could use your mouse to aim and move around. Depending on which buttons you're clicking. Like if you click right click, you could be walking in a particular direction, kind of like the Diablo setup.
Yeah,
Which,
yeah. They've
again, I'm
apparently
not.
deliberately decided not to do that, and there's a lot of people that play Last Epoch or games like that, and there's a lot of people that hate that PoE doesn't have that. So there's a lot of action RPG players that are used to using WASD. I wasn't one of them, so yeah, I found it a bit awkward to control, but that's probably because I'm new to playing a game like this with WASD.
Right, and I understand that they're trying to be different, but sometimes a system is designed the way it is because it just works.
Mm.
And not to get all Todd Howard about it, but like if it just works, keep on. There's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with using it. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Having a survival crafter with vampire is a unique enough spin where you can use a familiar mechanic. If you play like a first person shooter and you right click to shoot, left click to aim down sight, but like if you reverse those things for your game just to be different, you're just going to be confusing to people.
Well, yeah.
Because I've played games that are like Hades, for example, but the control scheme is different. Like I go back and forth between playing Hades and like Cult of the Lamb, and like the light attack, the heavy attack, the special attack, they're all bound to different keys,
Mm.
and you can like change those, but the fact that they're different between them, there should be a standard. And then on that note, and I'm kind of going into a rant here, but I'm going to cut this one short. On that note, like the different keys between a Nintendo controller, an Xbox controller, and a
Oh
PlayStation
yeah.
controller, they need to get together and just decide on a standard and stick with it.
I've
Because
heard that the reason they do that is for copyright reasons. They have to have their controllers be unique from each other, even in, what buttons do what sometimes, just to,
yes,
hold on to
but
their
the one
copyright.
thing the one thing that Nintendo, Sony, keyboard, and even mobile games all have in common is the X button.
Yeah, well, not always, because like literally when I get my Switch out, I have to, and I'm navigating the shop. Their confirm button is A and their cancel button is B, which is the complete opposite to what it is on Xbox. So I'm navigating the menu in Xbox, and the cancel and confirm buttons are opposite from what they are on the Nintendo Switch eShop. So that can
Right,
get
but
pretty
all right.
annoying.
Okay, so I know the joke just sailed over your head, but the theme tying them all together is the X button, because on mobile games you hit the X button to close the ads.
All right.
I'm not gonna lie, that one went over my head too.
Yeah.
I didn't catch
All right, it's a visual joke, I guess.
that. Did you get
That
it from a
one's on
meme?
me.
Gotta ask. Did you get it from a meme?
Yeah,
Okay, that makes a lot more sense because that's the first thing I envisioned. Like, I'm just envisioning the X button for the Xbox, the X button on the PS3, and then all of a sudden, you have a screenshot of, oh, hey, close this ad.
yeah. And the Nintendo
Yeah,
controller
you
has an X
gotta
button
you
as
gotta
well.
get brave, Cash, if you want to stop getting all those ads on YouTube, because ads on YouTube are getting worse. They're getting
Or
more and
or
more frequent.
or you can
Yeah.
always just download AdBlock.
Yeah.
It didn't work for a
Oh,
little bit, but yeah, they updated it. It works now. So
okay.
instead of switching up my whole browser, I'm just gonna turn on
Okay.
AdBlock.
Fair enough.
I will
Yeah.
say though, like, listen, you guys are probably too young to remember the console wars of like the early days with Nintendo and Sega, but watching this fucking arms race between the ad block and the anti-ad block software, it's like
It's
our
interesting.
generation's Cold War.
Yeah.
This is
It
arms
really is.
race.
You know,
But
one of them takes the lead, then all of a sudden the other one comes up
sorry.
with something new. It's
Just quickly, when I uploaded some of the earlier episodes of this podcast, because it's like usually a 2 hour long show, I decided to see what would happen if I just set it to, put ads in by default. And you know what it does? It puts an ad in every 5 minutes if I let it do the default, you know. So I have to manually go in and make sure the ads are only every 45 minutes, which is what I think is a more reasonable amount of time between ads. But yeah, if I just let it go by default, and obviously what a lot of YouTube channels are doing that are just, content farms, that are just, putting out, trash to, make money, that they will leave it on the ad every 5 or even less minutes. Like I watched a Penguin Z video the other day, and it was 8 minutes long, and I had to watch, I think, 4 ads, and they were like segments of 3 ads each on an 8-minute
Thank goodness
video.
we're above all that.
Yeah. And that only happened because I was, because on my phone, I usually watch stuff on Brave, on the Brave browser on my phone. But sometimes if I click a link or something, it'll open it in the phone app of YouTube. And that's when I experience what the ads are really like. And it was absolutely awful for just an 8-minute Penguin Z video.
It's so wild when I hear people complaining about like ads on the internet because, like, again, I use ad block, so like I don't see any of that.
Yeah,
Right,
but it's
right.
getting worse for the ordinary people that don't use ad blockers. They're just getting so aggressive with the ads, and that's why they're trying to ban ad blockers as well, and trying to get people to have to buy YouTube Premium if they don't want to, be extremely annoyed with, what's now become worse than TV. It's ads on YouTube are now worse than ads on TV.
Well, there's no such thing as the free internet, and they want to ban ad block for the same reason why they want to ban anything. It's a money issue.
Yeah.
For a
That's what it
while,
always comes down to.
for a while, didn't they make it so that I'm trying to think. I remember when they made it so that you couldn't have ad blocker on YouTube, right?
Yeah, that existed for a short while, but then they circumvented that. As
I remember
always.
that. I remember that.
Mm.
That's
It
what
was great. I took that time to read a book. I just stopped watching YouTube.
Yeah. I usually watch YouTube on my phone below my TV while I'm playing video games. So
Wow, you really are a millennial.
yeah, I got multiple screens on at the same time. Yeah, like on how on TikTok they've often got like a video playing while gameplay is playing underneath the video, and it's like.
Well, it gives you something. Well, here's the thing. Like for us, we have a video playing while we're talking, so it gives the viewer something to look at.
Yeah.
Right. Or at least, something along those lines. If not a video, then going through, like, for example, V-Rising's personal website, from the company itself.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a little bit of
different.
visual stimulation. For me, I'll typically go out to like a bar on a Friday night to read a book. That's what I like to do. There's a cigar bar down the street from my work. Oh, amazing. It's nice.
Classy.
Oh, hell yeah. Sit down with my book, buy a cigar, buy a beer.
Yeah, the last time I read a book, I was literally homeless. So the way I see it, it's like while I've got access to technology, especially after my experience being homeless in the outback, I want to take advantage of all the time I can spend with technology.
Well, that's what you get for buying a book instead of a house, idiot.
Right. You should have spent that money that you spent on the book. Put it on a down payment. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, sure.
Stop being so poor.
Yeah.
Get your shit together.
Well, books are free at the library, so.
Yeah, so is shelter.
Anyway, the next topic I wanted to go into is the ethics of emulation, and about how Nintendo recently shut down a really popular Nintendo Switch emulator. I've got this video. I'm sure a lot of people have seen this video, but it's become relevant again after the recent crap that Nintendo's done by cease and desisting Yuzu, the Switch emulator. So if you just want to play that video and we can commentate on it afterwards.
Do we want the sound on? Because I know Nickelodeon's probably going to put their fingers in the pie like, hey.
No, I doubt it. If
I
they
do
do.
believe I would like to purchase one Game Boy game. It's no longer possible to make Nintendo eShop purchases for Wii U and 3DS. What? But I'm willing to pay you. Here. Nope, no purchases allowed. I'm trying to be a good paying customer. Why not put the games on Switch? They aren't available on Switch. Don't you have a Switch eShop? Yep. So you could make your legacy content available there at any time. Yep. I'd like to purchase those games on the eShop with my money, without resorting to piracy, which you so thoroughly despise. So you should make them available for Switch. That makes sense to me. Then do it. We currently have no plans to offer classic content in other ways and also don't pirate our games.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, so
I haven't seen that in forever.
So I will state again, as I have before on this podcast, that while I don't advocate for it, I understand that piracy is a legitimate economic force, and this is a fantastic example of when that ought to exist, ethically speaking.
yes, like I have this story that I don't know if I've said it on the podcast before, but I've said it in like chat rooms. Basically, I had Windows 7 and I was getting a new computer, and you know, okay, I've lost track. I think I was trying to get a legitimate copy of Windows on my computer because I only had like a trial version or whatever. And anyway, I wanted to get Windows 7, but you know, we were in the Windows 10 stage by then. But I heard all this crap about how Windows 10 is spyware and adware, and so I didn't want it, and I wanted to get Windows 7. So I tried to go onto the Microsoft website and pay for a legitimate copy of Windows 7, and they wouldn't let me. They would only let me get Windows 10. So I decided to pirate Windows 7 because they wouldn't allow me to purchase it. So that's another example of, you know, of
Yeah, and of course they would come back. I mean, if they would care to even talk to you, they'd come back and say, "Well, that's fine. Well, okay, well, we're not going to service Windows 7 anymore." In which case, that's fine. Don't service it. It was fine out the
yeah.
box.
That's probably the time when I should have changed to Linux, but I'm just too lazy to learn how to do that. You know, learn how to use Linux. So, yeah, I'll just being a normie and eventually ended up going with Windows 10 and then 11 anyway. And yeah, I know they're spying on
Listen,
me, but
it's all right. Look, I appreciate your willingness to admit that it is out of laziness, but in my experience, I find that Linux is a very double-edged sword to use.
there's a lot of
Um,
things that aren't compatible with it,
yeah,
usually.
first of all, there's a lot of things that aren't compatible with it. I mean, it's great for very specific utilizations, but you shouldn't just get it just for the sake of bucking against the system. The system is it's a rigged game, but it's the best game in town, kind of deal.
Yeah, they've got a
I remember,
monopoly.
for me, the way I ended up doing it was my buddy. This was years ago, mind you. I think it was a Windows 7. What was it? He got it off Pirate Bay. So it was a Windows 7 download along with the free code for it. So that's actually what we've ended up doing for all of our systems. Like whenever we have something that we want, even for the server that we ended up buying, we didn't buy a Windows key for it. We just downloaded. Well, we had one. We've had one for I don't know how long now. And all you have to do really is once you get that Windows key, once you have that version, they upgrade you for free. So that's kind of how we ended up doing. We never ended up going with Linux. With what was it? There was Linux and there was was it Opera? Was that another one?
No,
Another
Opera is the web browser.
that's the web browser.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there was another one that we ended up looking at, but we're like, no, we already have this free copy of Windows. Just use that. And I'm pretty sure at this point collectively it's been on like 10, 12 computers. And they just upgrade you for free to Windows 11 anyway. So it's like, well, you know, save you $100 there from buying it from, you know, in store.
Yeah, and it's wild because like they wanted to do it, they were pushing it so hard to have an operating service as a live service, you know, that they could, you know, update even easier than having to go out and buy a physical copy, which was a great idea on paper. And then they realized, wait a minute, we're not going to make money anymore if we do this. So then they went back to like, okay, now we have to sell operating systems as individual products again, and people lost their minds again.
Hmm.
because Windows 10 was supposed to be the last Windows you'd ever have to buy.
Really? I don't actually remember that one. I've been
Yeah.
using. When did Windows? I remember when Windows 10 came out. That was years ago. But I
Yeah.
don't actually remember that being part of the package deal. That was like,
Well, I
oh, this is
think
the
I,
You were
last
I don't
probably
know if that
pretty
was the
young
deal for
then.
Windows 10 or Windows 11 or whatever the hell it is now. I think they just do it by year now, like Magic the Gathering.
Aren't,
You know,
aren't they still on? Aren't they still on Windows 11? If I remember
I,
correctly, they just keep
Well, I
updating
know
it.
I'm on Windows 11 now, but yeah, I just
well,
remember when 10 was coming out, I was worried about. Yeah, apparently I heard that they will be able to look at your computer and see that you have pirated software, and like that they'll see that you've got LimeWire or booze downloaded, and be able to actually get you in trouble for files that you have on your computer. Like there would be that level of spying is what I heard about 10. But I guess since I haven't been arrested yet, they probably aren't spying to that degree.
I also don't think, honest to God, it doesn't seem like that would be something that they'd be really. I don't know. It seems like we're not big fish here. You know what I mean? We're small fry. So it's like I don't think that we're going to be the subject of anything like that.
and here's the thing, and this
a waste
comes
of
back to the
resources.
heart of the problem with this emulator. Okay, it was fine for a long time, and then when they tried to make money off of it,
That's when
that
it was
was
an
Yeah,
issue.
that's when they
I
swooped
think
in.
another factor was how successful Tears of the Kingdom was on emulator, as well as Metroid Dread. They both ran very poorly on the official Switch hardware. So a lot of people ended up, emulating Tears of the Kingdom and Metroid Dread for a 4K 60 frame per second experience compared to, the shoddy. Because as amazing it is that Tears of the Kingdom runs quite well for its hardware, it's still very bad hardware, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's very
and that was
dated.
that was what I said when Legends of Arceus came out. I enjoyed that game very much. I like it. I still like it. But I really felt that the graphics was very lacking
Oh yeah,
for a game that came out on the same system that
that Breath of
Breath
the
of the
Wild.
Wild came out on
Yeah,
previously, which was a much larger game just in terms of the map. It was much more rich with different textures and environments and whatnot. And I felt like that the graphics what became the sacrificial lamb on the altar to make a certain release time. But that's just my theory. A game theory.
did you know that
Um,
Matt Pat's quit now?
I really don't
Is
care.
he? I was gonna say, didn't he announce that like in January or something along those lines?
I don't know.
But what was I gonna say? Oh, so anyways, the problem whenever it comes to this sort of like legal
Sorry,
stuff,
I've got
it always
some
comes down.
music playing that I've got to turn off. Damn it! From
Okay, so
Wolf,
whenever it
from
comes to a
that.
legal issue like this,
Okay, go
it
ahead.
always comes down to money. Um, and that's the heart of it. It's like I could go out there and I could write fan fiction all I want, and as long as I'm not making any money off of it, whatever intellectual property I'm using to write that fan fiction, they're not going to care. Fan fiction is considered free use. But if I go and publish a book, with that's a fan fiction of like say Twilight,
Yeah,
um, then it's like, oh wait, no, you can't do that because Twilight is a copyrighted intellectual property. So like, okay, well, what if I turn the vampire into a billionaire? Then it's like, okay, now instead of a vampire, it's a billionaire. Now you got 50 Shades of Grey.
yeah,
As long as you make it intellectually distinct, now you can make money off of it.
yeah. Which I think you said you were planning to do with your MLP fan fiction, to turn it into an
Yeah,
original
because like
story.
here's the thing, I could not take my MLP fan fiction and have it like published like with an actual publisher outside of like the scope of like say a couple of shelves at a convention, because that's privately published where I'm spending my own money to publish it. But as soon as I go through like for example, like Dark Horse or whatever to like print a book for me,
Penguin House.
Penguin House, any of those. If I have them publish a book for me and I have it released in retail stores, then you start running into trouble with like, oh yeah, this is copyrighted material. You can't make money off of this, and that's the distinction. Okay, whenever you have these sorts of episodes where it's a cease and desist, or you have a lawsuit because of copyright infringement, it's because it's an issue of money every time, and they have to defend their copyright because that's just how the copyright law is written. The copyright law is dumb and it should be changed. And basically, it keeps getting revised to serve Disney first and foremost. They're the biggest lobbyists for that crap.
Yeah.
But it causes a lot of it's a lot of problems.
But yeah, like the fact that they're being so aggressive about this, and it looks like another emulator has already surfaced, you know, that has just replaced Yuzu. Like what did it say at the top of the page? It's like called Suzu or something. But
Yeah,
they're causing their own problem. Like a lot of the reason why people are pirating stuff and all this is oftentimes because they can't even buy it. So
No,
if you
I
don't even
understand.
give
Listen,
them the option to buy it even, or it's more convenient. It's with games too, with like terrible like Denuvo, which is apparently something that's making Dragon's Dogma 2 perform really badly. It's like a DRM that they force into the game, and you know, a lot of people end up pirating those games just so that they perform better. So like a pirated version will perform better than a paid version, and that's another thing that causes a lot of piracy. You know, because of this crap that they do, you know, with anti-cheat and de novo and other DRM. They're causing their own piracy problem with, you know, their attempts to stop it. They're making it more appealing to pirate.
Here's the thing. These companies would rather not spend the time and the resources to pursue these people who are doing this, but they have to because of the way copyright law is written. They are obligated to defend their copyright in accordance with the law, because otherwise, if they don't, it could fall into the domain of free use, and then they lose all rights to it. The copyright law forces them to go after these people like this, and the other aspect of it too is that if you have all right, and in this case, this is what's happening. Okay, in other cases where you have something that's a property of yours that is actively making money, and then someone else infringes on that copyright, and then they start making money off of it. Now they're making money off of your property that you have. Like, I understand the purpose of it to protect a creative's intellectual property, but the way that it's being pursued in this way is pretty much just because of the way copyright law is written. And my official stance on that is that the copyright law needs to be revised. That's the whole point. Because as it's written right now, it's going to keep leading to these problems, especially if they're going to keep making poor business decisions like this to prevent people from purchasing it legitimately.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like all things. It's especially when you're dealing with such big, how should I say, such large moving organizations like this. You know, it's like Rome doesn't fall in a day. It wasn't built in a day. It won't fall in a day. So it's one of those kind of situations where eventually it slowly changes.
I've worked in the corporate environment long enough to know the higher up you go, the lower their mental age gets. Like, you get to upper management, they become like a 5-year-old. They can only learn by hurting themselves. And the bigger the company is, the more true that is. Like, that's why AAA has been floundering lately, is because they've always felt that they've been too big to fail. And now they've been failing. Like, you look at like the what is it? Suicide Squad game that came out that just is an absolute trash game. Yeah, and it's because like they thought like, oh, it's DC, it's a comic book character. We can just make this schlock and people will buy it up, you know, because they're idiots, and they're realizing no, consumers are very smart these days, and you're not going to pull over their eyes anymore. You look at Hollywood, and I'm not trying to get too political, but like you look at Hollywood and you see the movies that they've been making with the agenda that they've been doing it under, and they're starting to realize, hey, this is not making money. And let's not forget that making movies is a business. The people who expend the money to produce that movie, they want to make their money back, and they're not. You know, and now regardless of where you stand on the politics of it, it's not good for Hollywood to make movies that don't perform.
And that's why you see a rise of smaller creators and other how should I say avenues. I've heard Atlanta's been growing much more in the movie making business because they don't have as big of an agenda. You know, everyone has an agenda in a sense, but it's still a decision, a creative decision, how much it shows in a particular project. And that's why we see other places beginning to flourish in the movie making industry because, for example, Disney. Disney has had issues. I remember Strange World. Did you guys even see the promotions for that? Did you see any
Nope.
promotions for that?
No.
I
No.
I didn't. And that came out. I didn't even realize it was coming out until me and my buddies were walking to a movie theater and we realized, hey, what is this? Disney's putting out a movie? We saw one poster at the movie theater and it was coming out in a week. It's like, you know what? Yeah, I get it. You have certain things you want to push or you have your own ideas. But it's like at the end of the day, when you're making a movie, you're commanding a small army. That's how that you have to think about it in terms of logistically. That's basically what it is. There's so many people, so many moving parts, and such complexity that you can't just throw these things together willy nilly. I have a buddy that makes movies. It takes him months just to get everything set up to get started, and the
Yeah,
reason
and
is because it's so difficult.
yeah, and it's like trying to move a big ship. It takes a long time for the big ship to turn, and it is turning, But I'm not trying to get too off topic here, but it all falls under the umbrella of the entertainment industry, and the same thing's true for video game industry. So, what else we got here? We got what, Tiny Rogues?
Let's
Okay.
see.
Yeah. Let me just have a look at my
Tiny
list. Okay, Tiny Rogues. Now, this is a game that I have spent a lot of time in. I think I got like 70 hours clocked on it. And I've beaten the game with all the basic
All right,
classes.
how much is the game for starters? That's my first question.
Oh, $10. That's not
$10.
bad. Especially,
All right,
especially
$10.
if it's a good one.
Minimal graphics,
Yeah.
overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
All right,
So
so it's a top down.
yeah, so it's a roguelike, so you keep on restarting and you unlock new classes by getting certain achievements and yeah, you level up and you pick like abilities and weapons. There's not as much going on on the screen as like other ARPGs. Like I like that it's a bit more reserved in how much ends up happening on screen at once. Okay.
I like what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, and it's got really basic minimal graphics and apparently it's only in 0.02 alpha or 0.2 alpha, so I don't know if it's gonna be if it's still a long way from being out of early access, but basically they recently released what was basically like an expansion to expand the main game to have these heaven and hell endgame areas.
All right.
And I've completed those, and then there's apparently going to be a chaos endgame area that is going to be coming out in the fall release. So you've got this meta progression here, but it's things that affect your run, not your stats. So one good thing this game has is that each run, you don't have any extra power really from repeated runs. What you get from going up the skill tree is just things like it being more likely for certain rooms to spawn, or a variety of things. It's kind of hard to explain, but each of the classes has got like a really unique play style to them, especially when you unlock the super special classes. So there's like I think 14 base classes, and then each of them has a certain objective that you have to meet. Like you have to have them beat a certain boss either in heaven or hell. And there's actually decisions that you have to make during your run to be good, to get good or evil points, to go towards the boss that you actually want to fight with that character. And
Get good, scrub.
yeah, so certain characters like the warrior, you got to beat the game on evil. Like you got to go through hell and beat hell and become the king of hell. And then you unlock the super warrior class. Like it's not actually called super warrior, but these are classes with even more variables, more interesting variables to them. So Into the Abyss is going to be the next update apparently after this Heaven and Hell one. And I've just been really addicted to it, and I've Yeah, you got the Nyan Cat cannon there. Yeah, I've just been playing it heaps. And I highly recommend it as a nice cheap game to get a lot of time out of. Yeah, did you want to maybe just play that little bit of a trailer there? With maybe low sound. I think that's...
Alright, it's got that,
yeah, this
that's
is the
good.
best way to explain the game, I guess. To show it.
This reminds me of another game, and there's a reason why I pulled it up, actually.
Yeah, you've got all
I'll
kinds
say
of
that.
different types of weapons that have got different properties. Like that spinning one is an orbital. And like orbital speed is one of the stats that you can get. You can get like orbitals that go around you, but then also an orbital weapon. You've got short range, high damaging weapons and long range projectile weapons. Yeah,
So this, it's like a super upgraded version of. You guys ever heard of Geometry Wars?
I've heard of it. Haven't played it.
This is exactly what it reminds me of. I played this game. I was a while ago. I was young, maybe 10, 11, or 12, something along those lines. And this is exactly what it reminds me of, just the pure chaos, the amount that's happening on screen. This just seems like a much more advanced version of that, where you actually have, unlockables, you have much more power-ups, upgrades, stuff like that. Whereas this one was literally just, how far can you get?
Yeah,
That's
well,
what-
Geometry Wars takes that like Vampire Survivors formula and just breaks it down to its most basic elements. Like just like here's a shape on a screen, here's these other things coming at you, shoot the things at the thing, get a high score.
I'd say that Tiny Rogues is a lot more like Binding of Isaac than it is Vampire Hunters. Like, yeah, it's more of a Binding of Isaac sort of game. You know, if you're comparing it to something.
It looks fun.
Yeah.
It looks like one of those that you can get lost in the sauce. It's like Into the Gungeon. That's what it reminds me of.
Oh,
Enter
yeah,
the Gungeon, yeah.
Enter the Gungeon is an absolutely amazing game. I think it's one of the best of its genre. Yeah, it's one of my most played games according to playtime on my Nintendo Switch. But I haven't played it for many years, but I played it heaps when I had it. So there's nothing else to say about that. We can move on to Age of Empires 4 is on Gamepass, which is what made me decide to play it. It's an expensive game that I've never really been able to justify buying. But when it came out on Game Pass, I played it, and I played through the first two main campaigns. So the first campaign is the English campaign, which is about Normandy conquering Britain, or the British Isles. And if you played Age of Empires 2, it's pretty much goes back to being a very faithful recreation of Age of Empires 2. And if you played Age of Empires, you know the formula. It's a real-time strategy game where you command armies and try to build up your base. And there's four main campaigns in it. The Normandy invasion. Like if you go back up to the top of the page, it'll show the four main campaigns. Maybe a little lower. Just go down. There we go. Campaigns.
Oh,
so Norman campaign. And then I did the Rise of Moscow campaign. And each mission does a really good job of being original from each other. Like the Moscow have this thing where they actually do hunting, and they want to build up a bounty by hunting animals, and they get bonuses from that. The Normans, they have they have a couple of unique abilities, like their archers being able to put spikes in front of them. So yeah, I've just played the first two campaigns of Age of Empires 4, and I'm having quite a lot of fun. It's I don't know if it's worth buying. You having trouble finding? That's
I'm
Age
just
of
looking at
Empires
the
3.
different
Yeah.
types they have. Which one would be the most recent one?
Well, that's Age of Empires 4.
Age of Empires 4 is the most recent one.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
must have been thinking, Civilization, where they were on 6 or something like that. Because I do remember when I was younger, and I'm talking about
You're
much
thinking
younger.
of Civilization.
No. Yeah, that's what I mean. I was comparing it to Civilization in my head. Oh, also, My buddy told me today. Apparently, rumor is Civilization 7 is going to be coming out this year. Haven't
Oh,
verified
wow.
it. Haven't looked into it.
Yeah,
I don't
apparently
believe
they're
him.
remaking Age of Mythology
I
too,
hope so.
and that's coming
Haven't
out
heard
soon.
this.
Yeah, that one. That's one of my favorite games of all time, Age of Mythology. I put a lot of time into that. But that was, back when it was a classic game. Now they've, I think, released just a HD remake, but they're apparently going to be making a full-on remake, which is this Age of Mythology retold. That looks
I
like
like
it'll
that
be
they have.
cool.
I like that they have mods right here on the straight up website. That actually is very nice and helpful.
Hmm.
Yes, like I love
Oh yeah.
any game
By the
that
way,
embraces the mod community.
yeah. By the way,
Oh yeah.
on
Agree with
Game
you on that one.
Pass on the Xbox, mods are available for Age of Empires 4, so you don't have to get it on Steam to play with mods, which is pretty cool. Like I haven't often seen mods embraced on a console before, but yeah, on the Game
Do you
Pass
know?
version of Age of Empires 4, you
I've
can
just
put
I've
mods in.
seen several games where they have a thriving mod community, and then they turn around and say, "Hey, you know what? This is a really great mod. We're going to integrate it into the main game."
Yeah.
Factorio, not Factorio, Satisfactory, for example.
All right.
They have been very in close communication with the modding community, and there's been a lot of things that the modding community has come up and coded for them. And they basically said, "Hey guys, if it's all the same to you, since technically any mods you make are kind of become our property because it's made with our game, we're just going to go ahead and integrate this into the game, so that way people don't have to download it." And as long they do give credit and say, "Hey, so and so made this mod, but we made this version of it and added it to the game."
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm looking forward to playing more of Age of Empires 4 and doing the other two campaigns. It's just that V Rising, I bought V Rising recently, and that's taken front place at the moment. But
Something
I'm
that's
looking
on
forward to getting
my
back to
wish
the
list.
yeah.
A similar game on my wish list is called Kingmaker. Have you guys seen that?
Have
No,
not.
Look that up.
Kingmakers.
Yes. View the
Kingmaker.
trailer. The trailer is amazing.
All right, let's watch it.
We don't know where he came from. But I'll tell you, he built our village into a city.
So it's
He's
an
the one who
RTS.
trained
I
our
like this so
army
far. I love
and
RTSs.
grew us into an
It gets better,
empire.
dude.
I don't know where he's from. But if you think you can
So
stop him,
those units are a lot more
You're
fluid than the
already
ones on
dead.
Age of Empires 4, that's for sure.
You time travel to the truck, go
What the
back
heck?
to medieval times with your truck, and you can bring like 216 and modern weapons.
You know, this actually reminds me of a book that I want to read. It's called 1632, and it's about
He's got a-
things.
Yeah, he's got a grenade launcher and all kinds of stuff. So, like, you can play as one of the units to do this, and you can also control the battle from the RTS standpoint as well.
Yeah. Well, why is there suddenly modern weapons in this medieval setting?
Because that's what the game is. That's the unique hook. That's what makes this game different. It's an RTS.
That's interesting. Watching
Yes,
go
it takes place in medieval times, but there's a splash of modern weapons.
Are they time travelers or something?
Yes! It's a,
Cool.
it's a time traveling pickup truck.
fucking Apache,
he gave
goddamn.
our people
Dude,
a future.
It,
I hope he can
it's
save
rule
his own.
zero of video games. It looks like it's just fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, imagine if you went back to medieval times with an M16 and oh, here we go.
Right, maybe
I'm
you
not
could
sure
like
what this is about.
make a handicap for like veteran players versus newbies by having the veteran player play with just swords, while the newbies play with guns.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's just a single player game, but I think I don't know, I have to scroll down, but I can't. I'm pretty sure it's just single player or it has online co-op.
Oh yeah.
But yes,
Well,
it's
I
on
mean,
my
all
wish
right,
list.
that's different. That's different. Co-op is different than online, multiplayer, because multiplayer
Yeah.
can mean that you're going to play against.
Like in
Co-op seems to be cooperative.
in Age of
you play on
Empires
single-
4, you're literally doing a skirmish between different players and their bases, but it looks like this is more, a single player
Yeah.
experience. Maybe a bit like
But I mean,
Dynasty
it
Warriors.
just looks like good fun. Like
Mm.
It
I'm
does.
excited for it. It's on my wish list.
This looks like a lot of fun. I'm going to add this to my wish list. This looks like a lot of fun.
But like when I see like Ages of Empire, I'm like, yeah, that's cool and all, but check out Kingmakers.
Yeah, I mean,
gotta ask.
Age of Empires 4 is very formulaic. It's, a classic RTS. But yeah,
Yeah, no,
Kingmakers
okay,
looks a lot more
I don't want to call it.
original.
I wouldn't call it generic because they basically invented the genre.
Hmm.
Like I just got the re-release for Steam for Red Alert 2, Command and Conquer Red Alert 2. I was hoping that it was going to be like a remake with a graphical upgrade, like what they did with Dark Forces,
Yeah.
or there's other games that
Just
they've like
before I forget,
Yep.
before we go off Age of Empires 4 completely, one of the cool things about the game is that it's got like a full-on high budget documentary. Like it's half a high budget documentary. So what happens is you start the game and it plays a cinematic that's like a documentary about medieval times. And then you start the first mission and it gives you a bit more of the documentary, and then you beat the mission and it gives you another documentary, and then it gives you some extras of documentaries about certain weapons, like it has a documentary about the crossbow. And basically what happens is as you play through the campaign, you're rewarded with these little documentaries, 10-minute long documentaries about different things. And like they're in 4K video and they're like high budget, and it's one of the cool things where you play through the missions and you're rewarded with these really cool documentaries. So yeah, I thought that's something that makes this a bit, original from other games, is how you're rewarded with these. Like you've actually got to download the 4K videos if you want them as a
I was gonna say
download.
Final Fantasy does the same thing where it's got like really rudimentary gameplay with really beautiful cutscenes. And the thing with that though, I would say, is that like I can watch cutscenes on YouTube and I just would rather not have a bloated file size when I go to download it.
Yeah, well that's
Like
why
that's just me. Like if you enjoy it, I'm not trying to yuck anybody's
referring
yum.
to.
If you
I mean,
enjoy
the
it,
normal download just has 1080p videos for the documentaries. And on my Xbox can't do 4K, but yeah, I just thought that was worth mentioning as something that's interesting in Age of Empires 4. So yeah, now we'll go on to other topics.
Real quick, before we move on from this topic, I gotta ask: does Age of Empires have a sandbox mode? Because I remember I don't know how old.
It's
like
called
4 or 5 at
skirmish.
this
It's where
point.
you just build up a base
It's
from
called skirmish.
scratch, and other players, if you're going up against, in online matches, they'll build up a base from scratch too. The campaigns have a lot of missions where you start off with a lot. Whereas the normal game mode is skirmish, where you start off with nothing but like 2 villages,
Basically, just have.
you just start.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. It's in the
Okay, 'cause
campaign. You
I
often
remember
start with a lot of stuff and certain special conditions.
That's my memory of Age of Empires. Those are my memories of it. I must have played
Yeah.
Age of Empires 2 or something like that when I was really, a little chitlin.
Yeah, it's got that. That's the
I'm thinking
multiplayer
that's
mode.
what it was.
The campaign's the single player mode.
Okay. All right, what's
Anyway,
next on the agenda? Toasterside. What the heck is Toasterside?
yeah. So that's a
Toast
game
on the
that I
side?
saw Shakes had played 5 minutes of, because I didn't see any other games in his recent games played, which is odd because he was playing Helldivers. So I don't know why Helldivers wasn't in his recently played. So did you want to tell us about Toasterside?
Toasterside is spelled with a C, like regicide. All right.
That makes sense when that came up.
All right, so I played a demo. I saw this at the E3 demo, and the idea of it is that, and I didn't enjoy it. I played it for like 5 minutes.
Okay.
This is like a
Oh my
game
God.
concept.
Reminds me of Goat Simulator.
It kind of is. Okay, listen. This is a game that someone made like as a proof of concept, and the idea of it is that you have a grappling hook toaster that can grapple onto electronic things, and the idea of it is that you have a certain amount of time to get to your assassination target, and somewhere in the city, and I'm not sure what the map function is because it's not really showing it right now, but the idea is that you have to find the person that you're trying to kill and land in their bathtub. They're always going to be sitting in a bathtub.
Oh, okay. Trying to electrocute them.
So, and there's like, it's kind of like Hitman, where it scores you. Yeah, see, he's just going to be in a tub like that, and he's going to land in the tub.
This is T-voting. Oh,
Yeah, well, that's just it. Like, dude, like this game is barely a game. It's a game mechanic. All right, you have this toaster that can shoot a grappling hook at objects. I mean, to get the demo,
I was
just
gonna
get
say
the
it's
demo.
free. I'm just gonna download the demo real quick, see if I can play it on stream.
Sure. It's like, what? Oh, that's your free space.
It's literally 157 megabytes. It's gonna finish in like 10 seconds.
Yeah. No,
Let's
I saw
one,
the
two, three,
gigabytes. I'm like, no, it's not. Yeah. So this will take you no time at all. Go ahead and play it.
Let's open it up. Let's open it up. I gotta see
I
it.
had, yeah. I played the demo a couple times.
well, this will be a first for the show, playing a game live.
Yeah. Just
Toasterside. Let's
all right.
let's
The music's pretty good.
I
So
guess you could
okay,
play it
I
for
like
5
that.
minutes.
Oh, it won't take you 5
Why not?
minutes. It's gonna take you like 2 minutes.
Modern furniture is like the latest update, is it? Is that what that said?
Well, whatever. Like I said, I played the demo once. So yeah, you
I'd
can
rather
use the
just play
grappling
on
hook
that
to-
computer.
Well, you can use the grappling hook to connect to anything that's electronic, and now you're stuck.
I fucked myself.
Good job.
Yeah. So just you can
Okay,
just
We
well-
see
restart
how
the level.
good you are at video games.
Yeah.
Hey, piss off. I literally got stuck under a fucking bed. Like, what am I
So
supposed to do then?
I thought it was very innovative for a game. You know, I thought it was a neat concept. I wanted to give it a try. I didn't. All right, so you're getting close to the bathroom, so you probably gotta hit to the ceiling actually.
Oh, I see.
Like you can, if you get, I think you can grapple
To
onto
the
the
bed
ceiling.
again.
Shit. Same exact
All
fucking
right.
play.
So you can grapple onto the ceiling and swing, like from the light, for example. The ceiling lets you your best friend, you know. So there's the light, and then there's the top.
Cool, you knocked it over.
So, but like the camera is tricky. The field of view is very narrow, which I found to be very irritating, and the fact that the toaster itself will routinely get into your field of view. So there's your light fixture, and then there you go.
Oh,
you
missed.
messed it up. Try again. Yeah, but like I said, the camera is very finicky. You can grapple to the ceiling and then just swing in.
Die.
Now,
Oh.
so now.
You suck.
And this is the tutorial. Now, I don't feel bad because I struggled just as hard with this, and the
Yeah.
next one was even worse. No,
It,
I
it
feel like
looks
that-
like it looks like a game journalist
Being
trying
real
to
person here,
play
being
the
like,
game.
you know, real person. This is like a very dangerous situation, unless it's one of those fucking like new ones, EFID or whatever. Like, how the fuck? Why would you?
let go.
Why the? No, I know, but I'm saying like, why the hell would you have something?
How did
so
you screw that up?
Yeah.
Why would you screw that up? Look at it. Put on a lip.
Oh, there we go.
We can see that
Got
we
it.
can see that cash flow as a game journalist.
All right, so there you go, and you get 3 stars for doing it in less time.
Here.
So then here we go, new game, and you can only connect to something that's electronic, so lights or outlets. You can swing from the ceiling though. Like
Can you?
just yeah, you can grab onto the ceiling, but temporary like you can't pull yourself up. You can't like grapple to the ceiling, but you can swing from it. Like if you're already in motion.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so you have to pull yourself up to the ceiling light. All right, and then swing from the ceiling.
Pull myself
All
up and swing from the
Swing.
ceiling. Oh, I see.
Yep. Now, yeah, there you go. See now. Oh, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it. Get in there.
Baby cakes. There we
There
go.
you go. Now you have officially gotten further than I have ever played because I couldn't do that.
It's
I
nice
don't
to know
usually
that-
T-pose while I'm in my bath, standing.
You don't? You could. It's pretty fun.
Coward.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, so to gain momentum,
Superman.
you're gonna have to grapple onto something electronic there and elevate yourself. There you go. It's probably upstairs. Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be tricky. There's a light at the top of the stairs there.
Let's
But
do it.
anyways, listen. This is the whole game.
It's pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie. It's a weird concept, and it's not exactly the most
Yeah.
refined. Are you kidding me?
No,
Are you
this is
freaking kidding me?
literally someone just made this in like a day to be like, hey, here's an idea. You know, here's some cel shaded graphics and a toaster that has a grappling hook mechanic. Everyone loves grappling hooks. Grappling hooks are a great mechanic. I think most any game can benefit from a grappling hook.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ! I see what you mean by that freaking narrow.
Yeah, and
field
so
of view. Like, gee, oh my gosh.
So, yeah, so eventually, I would say this game could benefit from having a quick bind or for a reset. You know, kind of like Super Meat Boy.
Oh, there is. You press R.
Yeah, so there you go. See, and now you're back here, and off you go. So I feel like this is definitely one of those things where like it gets easier with practice. Yeah, like see, now you're not in the right
100%.
location for that fight. And you go back and play old levels to try to get 3 stars and whatnot. But I just think this is what I like to see, though. I like to see people who make video games. You know, this is somebody's first project. Like, it's experimental. It's, you know, it's not a game, but it's a great mechanic. And I think that a game could be made out of this. Like, maybe not necessarily a toaster. I think that's funny as it is, though. But you know, you think of like a full-size game where the assassin has a grappling hook. It may very well have started out like this. Like I think of a game like Ronin, for example, where you have a grappling hook in that game, but you also have like a katana and like a garrote, for example. That you can use for, like, it just started out with a simple singular game mechanic, and then the rest of the game gets built around it.
Yeah.
And I've always been a gameplay first person when it comes to game design. You know, like if you got a good game with good gameplay, you can write a story around it. You know,
you got to figure out
if
the
you've got
story
a
of
if
why
you've got a
this
story that
toast
you're, if you've got
is sentient.
now if you've got a story, well, no, if you've got a story that you want to tell and you try to turn it into a video game, odds are you're going to end up with like a visual novel, which is okay. There's certainly a market for that. So. But anyways, like I said, it's
Anyway, yeah, there's just a couple things I want to go over before we end the show.
All right,
I'm going into the brony segment now, so I put this at the end so that it's a non-brony safe podcast that won't get annoyed by all the pony stuff. So the last game, Starbound. Did you want to talk a little bit about Starbound, Cash? Since you've been playing
It's cool.
It's cool?
We can save that for next week.
All right.
I only kind of jumped onto it for a little bit. I like it, but it's not, you know, it's one of those things that you don't really, it's self-explanatory almost.
Yeah, it's
basically
sci-fi Terraria, basically. Okay, the other video I sent you, I just thought we could quickly watch this little 1-minute trailer for the new My Little Pony game.
Yep.
All right. That was fun, but let's look at the trailer. Toaster, there it is.
You can put some audio on it.
All right, this is available on
Welcome
Twitch.
to a new pony adventure.
Switch.
Probably
We have a
everything.
new mystery to solve. A strange magic is turning the world upside down in Zephyr Heights. Every pony is here to save the kingdom. Play as Sunny, Hitch, Izzy, Pip, Zip, or Misty. Adventure with 1 or 2 players.
I wonder if it's going to have like a fully explorable open world.
Use the special abilities to
No,
stop
it's
the
going to be locked in
unstable
somewhere.
magic.
It's going to be like, hey, you can explore this area, and there's going to be the equivalent of invisible walls.
It kind of gives me the vibe of being like a, Mario 64 style
Enjoy the
collectathon.
fun mini-games.
It reminds me of A Hat in Time. That's what it reminds me of.
You have to remember that this game is targeted
Together,
towards
we
its
can do
target
it.
audience, which
Welcome
is
to
not
My
pros.
Little Pony, a Zephyr Heights mystery.
Right.
So,
Which is
so,
actually
so, 18
sense-
to 30-year-old
money.
males, right? That's its target audience.
Yeah, 18 to 30-year-old males. That's exactly who would play this.
Yeah, I'm a bit too
wonder if
old.
it'll be
I'm a
okay.
bit too old for My Little Pony. I'm 38, so. Anyway, I just thought that was, I'd get your comments on that, whether you're actually planning to play it.
I'm not planning on playing it. I didn't play the first one. From what I heard, the first one was pretty
Like it was
shallow.
2 hours long. Yeah, 2 hours long
Yeah.
game.
Wait. What's the first
Barely
one
an
called?
episode of the show.
I don't remember what the first one was called, but like it was just,
A Maritime
Welcome to
Bay
a new-
Adventure.
oh, Maritime Bay Adventure, and now this is Zephyr Heights Mystery.
So
I
obviously the next
hope
one's going to
this
be
game
Vital
has
Wood.
more to it, but it looks like it's just going to be like a collect all the things, walk around, touch the bunny. You know, it's for kids.
Yeah, this one's literally an hour and a half long, so you're probably dead ass right on that one.
Isn't it a bit profound that there's probably bronies that have given, that have 11-year-old kids now?
Join Sunny Star Scout.
Well, I mean, there are kids.
It's an older fandom at this point. It's getting to be older.
Yeah, that's a generation. It's just going to be a continuous generational joke. I mean, there are kids alive today whose parents were not born when 9/11 happened.
Right. Like,
You know,
crazy.
and that dissonance is just going to get worse. So you just kind of have to accept it and get over it.
Friday celebration.
it's just the march of time, man. It's just how it goes.
Customize Sunny with lots of accessories.
Don't you want to customize Sunnies with lots of accessories?
Yeah, it very much is a game for little kids.
Video game
Oh man, I cringe at myself and some of the horse puns that I'm used to now.
Welcome to My Little Pony, a maritime
That you're used to?
Yeah, well, you try sending out an all company wide email that starts out with "Dear Princess Celestia."
Whew.
Okay.
You know what?
Yeah,
You can do it. Just tell your boss, like, hey, that's just my nickname for you, Princess Celestia. Because you oversee everything like the sun. Boom. There's your explanation. And God help you if anyone actually figures out why you're doing it.
Yeah, so Celestia is your religion, and they can't judge you for it.
Ah, yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay.
For the fucking Church of the Sun, butt.
Yeah. Okay. Now the last thing I
my-
wanted
my
to
comment-
mention, unless you guys had anything else to say.
I'm probably just on Shake's boat here. I didn't play the first one. I barely even realized it was a game, and I probably won't play the other
Yeah,
one.
I heard that the first one was only like a 2-hour long shallow little thing, and I wasn't interested in playing
Look
it
at this.
either.
An
Yeah,
hour
no,
and
this
30
is-
minutes. This guy beat it in an
Yeah.
hour and 30 minutes.
No,
Like,
he 100%ed it.
In
If
30.
Yeah,
that was
like-
on Steam, you could 100% it and then refund it.
Wow.
yeah, no, you're 100%. You're 100% correct on that one. It's like, just is what it is.
It's just, I mean,
Don't-
look, it's not targeted to people who look
not
for
bad.
substance. in
Why,
the
why,
game.
why
It's just
not
something
though?
to
Don't
keep
they
you busy.
realize that there's lots of bronies that have a disposable income, and they should like
You know
target
Sure.
them?
That's a fantastic question, but you have to remember, okay, it's not 2012 anymore. 2012 was the peak of the brony fandom. That was when you could go into Target and find adult male My Little Pony
Yep.
pajamas. Okay, that was when there was brony merch, not just My Little Pony
Not just
toys. but
Pony
like-
merch, brony merch.
Yeah,
That's when
like,
you can have things ordered to the local. What? Not Spencer's. What's it called? The other one that's in all the malls.
Hot Topic,
Yeah, that's what. That's
where
you can
where
go to
trends
Hot
go to
Topic.
die.
Yeah, that's where you can go to Hot Topic and have it ordered there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Like,
nowadays,
I had a
it's like,
size. I had a size
everything's
36 waist. I have a size 36 waist men's swim trunks with Rainbow Dash on them. You know, like that's never going to exist again. Like you can still find like Generation 4 My Little Pony stuff, but there's just going to be the
Yeah,
the
it's just
core
G5
fan.
now, and it's.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
if you want stuff
G4
like
is
that, you know
even
what?
more. Sorry, G5 is even more aimed at kids than G4 was.
Oh,
yeah,
100%.
G5. G5 is the boat that I was happy to miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the only one that I really did enjoy for G5 so far is I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, I
thought the
enjoyed
movie
all
was
the
Yeah.
3D stuff, but I have not had any interest in the crappy cartoon.
The cartoons themselves never didn't interest me anywhere near as much.
No.
And honestly, at this point, the thing that's been really keeping me a brony more than anything is the fandom. The fandom's
Yeah.
great; it's a lot of fun. But
Yeah, same.
seldom will I go back and rewatch MLP Gen 4. I did that the other night, which was pretty nice, but it was more so just to get back into like, oh man, I remember this episode. It's nostalgia.
Yeah.
It was just nostalgia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that takes us to our 2-hour mark.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to mention a couple things. I've got an audio book project that I'm doing. That for the first time is going to have voice actors for every character. Did you want to just go into film fiction quickly, Cash, and bring up Ponyville Kindergarten? And so this is the first audiobook I'm making where I've got 7 voice actors to be 8 characters. or 9 characters really, if you include Luna. Yeah, so I've managed to round up 7 voice actors for this. I don't play the video,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
just the trailer for my
I was
channel.
going to say, I found your casting call.
Yeah. You can probably find the
Well,
link for it in my casting call. Find the link
There it
to
is.
the pic. So yeah, this is a cute little story where he reimagines the each of the episodes as if it was really in their imagination in a kindergarten play school or whatever. And so yeah, this is a project that I'm going to be doing soon. I've managed to round up 7 voice actors for 9 characters. So it's going to be one of my most all-out one of my best projects yet in terms of effort that I'm putting into it. And I'm going to be narrating and having a bunch of voice actors. I was surprised I was able to find so many in like 2 weeks. So that's going to be exciting.
The starving artist and all.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not going to lie. If somebody said like, hey, I want you to be a VA. Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun. That's the best way I could describe it.
Yeah, they all sent in their auditions and they do a pretty good job of sounding like the characters. You know, normally I've just been using like AI voices from 15 AI, but I think I've got to start allowing people to participate in the process. You know, a lot of people are annoyed by AI things, so yeah, I just thought this would be a fun thing to do and have real people involved rather than just using AI voices like I have in the past.
Yeah, Cash, I gotta say, you got a really good narrating voice, no homo.
Thank you. I appreciate that. In a world where Ponyville Kindergarten is
maybe
really just the imagination of fools.
Maybe I'll get you to be Spike at some time if he shows up in this story.
Is he old?
I was going to say, I don't know if I can
yeah.
Spike.
Yeah,
I can only go
probably
so
be
high.
an even littler kid.
My boy Cash here is pretty baritone.
Yeah, I can only go so high. Like, I don't know if that's the best role for me.
Like,
Look
you
at it,
can
it's a
either,
baby.
you
probably
can
not.
either do like Big Macintosh or Flutter Guy.
Yeah,
Find
that would be
the
fun.
music in you.
So yeah, look
When
forward
you
to that if
find
you're,
the music,
if you come to my
find the
channel for
music
the
in you.
audiobook stuff. And finally, I in my real life, I just thought I would mention this. I think I linked it to you, Cash, in the MGB room. It's probably the last link that I sent. I've started another new YouTube channel. Because I've been, as you know, Shakes, I've often been very tempted to share my political opinion and stuff. So I'm making a new YouTube channel all about politics, particularly recently the Palestine-Gaza stuff. And I'm planning on, like, I've actually gone out to a whole bunch of protests recently, and I've actually filmed them, like actual protests here in Perth. And they are massive protests that are going on about, the attacks going on in Gaza by Israel. And if you're interested, you're a subscriber of my little of Mystery Pony Fiction. I'm never going to put anything political there, but this is where you can go if you want to see me doing political stuff. And that's actually a stage of my life that I feel like I'm going into. I'm actually going to start getting involved in my local politics and attending these protests.
Good for you. Good for you. And I think I can speak for everyone when we say that we appreciate you keeping it quarantined.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, keep things separate from work life, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'd mention that if anyone here is interested. I'm probably going to do Let's Plays of Democracy 4 while I talk about socialism on this channel soon when I'm ready for it. So
all right.
If you feel so
that'd be
inclined,
topical, yeah.
If you feel so inclined, at some point you could even have debates.
And on that note, I'm going to go spread some managed democracy in Helldivers 2.
Yep, you do that.
I'm going to go ahead and go conquer my kingdom in Civ 6. Or I might pick up Age of Empires 2. I'm not going to lie. That's a nostalgia itch that I've always had that I've never scratched. So I might have
Sounds like a plan. Let's go.
All right. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Good. Tune in next time for some more amazing feats.
This is Andrew Tate, and you're listening to the Mystery Gaming Bros podcast. There are no men more alpha and masculine than these guys. They are who all men should aspire to be like. There is nothing more manly than being a fan of My Little Pony. It's what all the coolest guys I know do.
Game over.